asked me, they said, are you a Muslim? And I was like, no, like, praise God, like, I'm a Christian. And they're like, oh, you should become a Muslim. And I said, why?
Right.
And they were like, because then you can go to Jannah. Jannah is the Arabic word for like heaven.
Oh, okay. I was like,
and so I said, well, what's in heaven? And they're like, well, there's like flowing milk and honey and like all the grapes you can eat, and you can do anything you want. So one of the concepts in Islam is like there's haram and halal. So halal food like is like not pork, and like food that's like clean,
Okay.
like allowed is the origin of it.
Okay.
And then haram is like forbidden. It's not good. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to do this and this and this. And they said everything that is haram, that is bad in earth, is halal, is allowed in heaven. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to be where God's presence is.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, what do you mean? Why can we be on God's presence? And so
That
one
kinda
thing,
opens a dialogue. Yeah.
absolutely. And so one thing that I love that I have learned living in this area of the world is that stories are great. Stories are amazing. And the story that I normally start with is the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were in the garden. God created everything good. The world that we live in was good. He created it good. And Adam and Eve were there, and one day Satan comes to Eve and he says, hey, why did God tell you can't eat from any of the trees? And she's like, God didn't tell me that. He said, I can't eat from that one. And he said, well, why do you think so? And
Yeah.
and you know the story. So we tell the story, and then we get to the part where Adam and Eve sin, and how God has to actually like sacrifice an animal in order for them to be clothed, and sends them out of the garden. And he also gives a curse. He gives a curse to the man that he will have difficulty in labor. He gives a curse to the woman that she'll have pain in childbirth. And he gives a curse to the snake, which represents Satan, and says someday a child will come, so someone born of the woman will come who will crush your head. And that obviously we know is pointing to Jesus. And I get to that point. Right. And at every point where I'm telling this story with this family, this lady, she's just so engaged. And she scoots closer to me and she's like, speak up, tell me more. And she's like, I've never heard this story before. And
Really?
she keeps going. And
That's
she
crazy.
keeps going. And
Yeah.
she's like so engaged. She's like, okay, well, what about that? Well, what do you think the curse means? And so I'm like, well, actually, this is
I can
great.
tell you, yeah.
And so then we can jump to Jesus and then the reality of the cross of like, we live in a broken world. Obviously, it's not good the way that God made it. But Jesus has come to return all things new, and we can have a clearness. We can live at peace with God in our hearts when we believe in Jesus. And she didn't receive it at that time, but it was a seed planted. And lots and lots and lots of conversations like that in that context. Yeah. Everyone that you meet has never heard.